Another giant list of class changes have hit the PTR. Okay, there is a ton of class changes coming in, and we're seeing it all through Midnight Alpha, and it's substantial. I mean, your class is going to play different than it ever has, and a lot of this has to do with the removal of add-ons, changing in game philosophy, making the game, as Blizzard says, more accessible. But you're wrong to think that this pruning is a bad thing. Are you? Let's see what Marcellian has to say about why it's simple and not stupid when it comes to the new iterations on classes and why this could actually be a good thing for World of Warcraft. Here we go.
World of Warcraft Midnight is pruning all of the classes in the game and changing how they play forever. I know what you're feeling, and you are wrong. The Midnight expansion is coming in with revolutionary changes to the game, way quicker than some people expected, and definitely at some of the player base's expense. The general summary of these changes, from the war on add-ons to class pruning, is that the game will become easier and, more importantly, approachable. Of course, with such drastic changes like half of your spells deleted.
Jesus Christ, that's a lot of fireballs, pyroblasts. Sam, do you think WoW will finally be on console? I think that's why they're making a lot of these changes and removing add-ons. The add-ons are going away. I don't know if that's a direct, call out to we're going to make this game better for console, and that's why we're making all these changes. But I'll be honest, I don't mind this game going to console. I don't. I think more people that play the game, the better. The more, the merrier. Bring in tons of people. Have all the Call of Duty Andes finally try World of Warcraft. I don't care. I want more people to play this game, and I don't care how they play it. They could play it on their fucking toaster. Now, are they going to be able to play the game at an elite level, say as somebody with a keyboard and mouse on a PC can do it? Maybe not. Maybe you'll notice that their DPS is a little bit lower in Raid. Maybe you'll notice that single button rotation ain't the best way to play the game. But they'll be playing the game nonetheless. They'll be funding the game that you still play nonetheless. So that's good for a longevity of this game, more content for this game, and everything else that could come from more people playing the game. I don't want to keep people away from WoW. I don't think that's a good idea. Now, does single button rotation, removal of add-ons, simplification of rotations, are those all things that'll make this game more easy to play on console? For sure. Yeah, no doubt. I can't deny that. Is that the reason they're doing it? Maybe. Maybe it's a supplemental reason. Maybe it is the reason. But again, I don't care, because I still think that at the end of the day, from what I've seen from these changes so far, at the high end, somebody who completely masters their class, masters their rotation, clicks all the right things at the right time, is still going to find the game challenging in a way, because add-ons have now been gone, so you can no longer just be told what to do and when to do it. And they're going to play the game at a higher level, right? It seems like there's going to still be a difficulty to this end game. It's just a different type of difficulty. But anyways, I'll let Marcellian continue ranting.
Combat encounters being entirely decided by you seeing 2 to 3 mechanics a boss has over 5 minutes. The pushback from players has been strong and has pointed out that the community right now is split between 2 major factions, the casuals and the elitist. I specifically chose to use more inflammatory and dramatic labels just to make sure both sides are equally triggered, because although there is truth to both arguments, people seem to be extremely polarized and extremely self-centered. Let's break down the 2 sides of the argument, what changes they represent, support, and combat, and why.
If Marcellian's going to say a lot of the stuff I just said, I've read a lot of patch notes, I've looked at Blizzard's announcements, I've read into their reasoning, the PC Mag interview with Ian Hazzikostas. Like, I've seen and looked at and thought about a lot of the reasoning why they're doing what they're doing, and Blizzard said it themselves. The game will remain difficult. It'll just be difficult in a different way, and a different way means you don't need 36 add-ons to understand the boss fight, to be able to do the mechanics correctly. Now it's just going to be on you. But because it's just on you, the boss fight needs to be made more simple, right? Because it can't be done without add-ons. That's why you have 36 weak auras. And because it's more simple, it can now be done just through player skill. And player skill will still matter because you're going to be able to do those mechanics better than the guy who's got less skill. That's how it's going to work.
Both are ultimately
It's obvious.
wrong.
I did not pre-watch the video, though. No, I didn't. Oh God, the
First, let's
allegations.
take a look at the casuals. Being a casual has long seemed to be a negative thing because it was associated with players of less skill and or dedication to the game.
Part of
But
the
in
video's about
modern WoW,
add-ons,
I'm
I'm
not
sure.
sure this is the correct term to classify this group of people, and by no means is it a negative thing to be a casual player. Because here we have an assortment of players that can range from the beginner with no clue what keybinds are to the WoW nerd that knows every mount drop and every story quest ever made. If you think
Right.
our characterization of them is wrong, feel free to let us know in the comment section down below. If you think the characterization is right, you can support our content by checking out our Patreon at
There it is.
patreon.com/MarcelinandFlame. We appreciate the help of everybody
By the way,
involved,
yeah, support
especially
them through
those who
Patreon.
even take
What
the
I was gonna
time
say
to
is, by
like
the
and
way, a lot of the
subscribe to the
hardcore
channel.
players,
A bigger channel means
this is the
bigger
aging player
videos
base.
and
They're now
more people
casual
we
players.
get
That's
to
the truth.
upset.
A lot of these
That's
guys
how
who
it
used to be the hardcore
is.
Andes
To our casuals,
of the game,
they're
they're no longer the hardcore Andes of the game, and that's because they're aging, right? They have a different place in their life now. I'm no longer 15 years old living at my parents' house playing this game all the time like I used to be. I'm now 35 years old. I got 4 kids. I'm married. And yeah, I got other things I have to do every single day besides play the game. Would I love to just play the game? Of course I would. But, you know, I got other shit going on. So Blizzard's adapting the game to its aging player base. We're balding. We're molding. We're aging. You know, we can't control our gas releases anymore from our anuses. It's all floppy. Everything's hanging out everywhere. We don't know why it's happening, but it's called getting older. It's happening to us. Life's changing, responsibilities changing, and the game has to change to kind of meet the desires of the players. Now, there's still the hardcore side of things. You want to be a world-first mythic runner, go join Team Liquid and do those things. But there's now a lot more accessibility to the game when it comes to other content you can do, say delves and everything else.
side of the argument that supports these WoW changes range from the actual casual player, the player that plays the WoW a few hours per week, maybe a player that may or may not have other life responsibilities, other gaming
Right.
or IRL interests, or simply does not want to dedicate a significant amount of time to WoW to take it seriously and get better at it. Usually this type of player hops on an expansion release, checks out the new shiny things that the game has, plays for a week or a month, then leaves. The drop-off in interest in the game is not something new. It is very seasonal, whether it is expansion-based or patch-based. Then you have the loyal casual, the person that does not have an interest in pushing high-end content. They may play consistently throughout the expansion, with or without breaks, but
Yeah.
is content to do a delve, farm event transmogs, see the story, finish questing, level alts, and, God forbid, do pet battles. Although this type of player will still sink in quite a few hours in the game, sometimes even more than the hardcore endgame pusher, they just approach the game from a fun and chill perspective. Lastly, the old casual, and I'm very careful here with the term old. I don't necessarily mean old by age. It can be old by how long he or she has been playing the game for.
Yeah.
It can be someone that at one point was a cutting edge blaster and now either cannot play the
That's
game.
me, you know. I'm really like I guess I'd be considered an old casual to this game. I don't know if I'd consider myself or like I fit the definition of casual. I mean, I'm still playing how many hours a day? About 15 to 20 hours a week of gameplay. Like, is that really casual? No, it's a part-time job. I don't know if that's casual, but I stream the game too, so it kind of is a part-time job. So, I mean, I'm out here playing the game, having a good time, doing what I do, but I'm not by any means my old self. You know, back in the day, Samiccus was a gladiator, cutting edge, world first. I did it all. You know, that was the old days. But today, I'm more casual about it. I'm not that competitive about it. I just play the game because I enjoy playing the game. You know, that's how I do things now. Sam, you were never cutting edge. I don't know what you're talking about. I've cut many edges. So the whole thing is, yeah, I probably fit more into the old casual than I would say, you know, the current elitist player. Hey, Sam, genuine question. How are you not? How are content creators not copyright striking your videos? Have you ever been reached out to by these people? I have. I've had people reach out. So... One thing kind of just like Blizzard, where I said Blizzard doesn't copyright strike. We're getting into kind of conversations that we had earlier, but Blizzard doesn't copyright strike me because they allow me to use their music because it's kind of like a free advertisement. I'm making content about their game. People get exposed to their game, and then they come pay for their game. Same thing with reactions on YouTube. I mean, I'm exposing people who might not have otherwise been exposed to other creators, right? I'm putting a link to their content in my thing. I'm adding to it, on my own. But if that person doesn't want me to react to their content, they reach out to me and tell me, hey, man, I don't want you reacting to my shit anymore, and I won't. Or they can take the money away. So YouTube has a way that you can basically take the money away from the video that was made about your content. And that same sense, when I see that happen, I won't make content about your shit anymore. I won't do it. I won't react. And there was a person who did that to me. I won't say who it was, but a couple times I reacted to his videos, and he took the money that was made on my video, reacted to his video. He took it. And that's fine. He has a right to do that. But the thing is, it's also considered free advertising. Like if somebody reacts to my content tomorrow, if Zaryu fucking or Asmon, I mean, he doesn't do WoW content anymore, but if they reacted to my content, I would not strike it down. I have a right to, but I wouldn't because that's exposing my content to other eyes. It's very much the same concept with Blizzard and using their music or game content. Is that it's free advertising? Why the fuck wouldn't I want other people to react to my shit?
At that level due to personal life or certain accessibility injuries, or does not want to or have any interest in playing
it's fine to
at
be
that
curious,
level anymore. What all of these people and the ones in between these categories have in common is that the game has evolved to a point where it has become too much. And this is, I believe, the right way to look at it. Too much. Whether it is too complicated, whether it requires too many add-ons or the reading of online guides on how to play, where to go, and what to do, these players simply don't find this fun, whether they can do all of this or not.
Right.
WoW has evolved this.
I don't want to turn this into a content reaction, video right now, like just talking about how reaction works on YouTube. But who reacts to Sam's content? I have had people react to my content, and YouTube actually, the algorithm alerts you to the fact that your video was used in someone else's video. It can sense, obviously, by the sound waves and everything, that's the same video being rerun on someone else's channel. And I didn't strike it down. I'm fine with it. As I said before, it's free advertising. So why the fuck wouldn't I let that shit happen? Yeah. Asmon patched the torch to Samiccus, #1 best tank in WoW. That's right.
Such a way that the content feels artificially gated for them. And as an MMO player, they might feel like they just cannot play the full range of content without additional support.
Class pruning. Okay.
The elitists are what some people, us included, have categorized as the 1%, most of the time incorrectly. But the implication was always that they are the end game pushers, the competitive side of the community. People who enjoy going into a raid, being challenged by a boss for over 100 pulls, and then finally killing it for that glorious feeling of becoming better and besting the encounter.
By the way, they are oftentimes also the loudest part of the community. You got to understand the 1%ers, this is what they do. They eat, breathe, live, fucking shit World of Warcraft. That's all they do. So when it comes to forum posting, feedback, alpha testing, it's usually these guys, which has led to a game that is very much created for the 1%. That happened for a long time. Shadowlands raiding was no joke. You ran normal Shadowlands. I mean, if you were a filthy casual, that shit probably didn't go very well. Halandra's probably still putting orbs into your asshole at this point. So for people, to be complaining right now about it, again, it's probably just the loudest 1%. I think most people are fine with ability pruning. Most people are fine with the simplification of the game. It's just the very loud 1%ers who have the time to forum post, who have the time to play this game a lot. That's what you see a lot of feedback. And again, it tends to lead to a game more created and tailored towards those 1%ers. But I think Blizzard right now is doing a good job. They're trying to, understand that is a dynamic when it comes to feedback. And they're trying to react more to, I would say, the data of how players play rather than, necessarily the feedback of what players are saying. Now, that doesn't mean they're not listening to feedback. I think Blizzard doing a better job than ever of listening to feedback. They're reacting quite well to it. But they also understand, let's look at the numbers. Let's see what the people like, and let's try to give them more of what they like.
This can also apply to PvP as well, but since PvP has kind of been ignored for a long time and we stopped playing PvP ourselves, I don't want to put everyone in the same bucket. Elitists can range from people getting cutting edge and 3000 IO all the way up to MDI champions and world first raiders. We can argue that heroic rating and casual weekly plus 10s would be still included in this category, or maybe in between the two sides with a foot on each shore. When you play a game for a long enough time and you enjoy the new combat encounters, class evolution, and skill expression, it's only natural to want more of it and to relish in the journey of getting better, which is a core aspect of an RPG,
Very true.
a video game, and I would argue any kind of game in the whole wide world.
Yeah, there's definitely
Sure, you can play a card game.
definitely a dopamine hit to getting better, right? You see your numbers go a little bit higher. You're learning your rotation just that much more. You're inking out that little bit higher of damage output. Yeah, it does feel good for sure. That is a little that's the chase for greatness that we all enjoy doing in the game, in real life, whatever it is.
Your friends, but if you were terrible at it and constantly losing, I would argue you wouldn't enjoy it as much. And if you ever played stuff from chess to football to Pictionary, I bet that whether you are a casual or an elitist, you always felt better when you managed to rise to the occasion, since fundamentally games are supposed to pose a challenge to people, whether it is a physical one, an intellectual one, or a social one. And arguably, WoW has gone too far. Elitists would be the people that would enjoy these challenges more than any other.
Right.
Marcelin and I would likely fit into this category based on how we approach the game over the years. Used to. These would also be one of the game's most loyal player base, together with the loyal casuals that would keep the game alive through tough times, such as the dark ages of Shadowlands.
Yeah, I played a lot of
Elitists would
Shadowlands.
also be the people classified as the toxic community. The player in your dungeon calling you a dumbass for not knowing an important cast that you need to kick, or the group wipes in a +7 key because they play.
Or in the past, not having a certain add-on, right? You got cussed out for not, this guy don't have the weak aura, get him the fuck out of the group, which was always like a barrier to entry to any sort of content. And it's not just a barrier to entry to console, it's a barrier to entry to even the PC players. Because again, I've introduced people to this game many times. I love getting people hooked on World of Warcraft. But one thing that's always been an oddity for them is, unlike other games that they install and start playing, it was always like, okay, hey, you installed WoW? Good job. Now install this thing so you can install some add-ons, because you need these things to play the game properly. That was never a good conversation to have. It always felt weird. It always felt like, what is that? Does that mean this game's not complete? Like, why isn't this shit in the game? Well, now they're trying to put that shit in the game. Is it going to go well off the bat? Maybe not. But I think overall, for the health of the game, it's better to have that shit in the game.
The game so long and took so much time to learn their class, learn their encounter, they have a natural expectation that their teammates would do the same. Just like how in school or at work, if you were assigned with a team to do a project, you might not like it being the only one putting in the work while the others were, to use gaming terms, carried through to the end results.
The problem, class pruning.
The problem with elitists, and we would know with us being content creators, is that echo chambers can be formed to the point where the connection to the other side of the player base is lost. High-end players might not know, realize, or maybe even care what the average player does or like. The average player usually being people who don't really read class guides, watch World of Warcraft educational content, spend their times on forums or Reddit. Because of this, it's hard to know, for example, how successful the Delve system has been, since the target audience for it was basically the majority of the player base that we don't ever hear from.
Yeah.
And because of this, the loud...
Yeah, Greg from accounting, who's running his delves, trying to avoid his abusive wife in the basement and enjoy a little bit of, me time. He's not on the WoW forums giving feedback. Greg's just running his delves. He don't know anything about this shit. He doesn't read the patch notes. He doesn't know what's coming next. He just sees some press release about something and he's like, oh, that sounds good. Midnight. Wow, okay. Wonder if there's some new delves to run through. That's a lot of the player base. Most of the player base are not degens on Twitch, talking about the game constantly, parsing out the patch notes, trying to figure out what's coming next and giving feedback to the game. Believe it or not, that's not most people. We are not most people. We are not. And that's okay. I enjoy you degens chatting with me in the mornings. But besides that, most people are just going to play whatever's out there. They're not even going to know when a fucking patch hits most of the time. Just be like, oh shit, there's new stuff to do. Great. And that's a part of the player base that has been underserved for a long time.
Loudest speakers over the years have been high-end players or elitists. Not saying there
I'm not
are
Greg.
other
My
voices
wife's a nice
out there.
lady.
I'm just saying that the loudest have been people who push keys, prog through mythic raids, farm achievements, and are having fun playing with a lot of combat reading add-ons that optimize the game for them for maximum efficiency. There's also a very good chance that a lot of high-end gamers, a lot of elitists, found their way on the WoW developer team designing classes and encounters.
That's true. Ian
way
has a
they knew
Kosis.
how to be engaging and challenging, but ultimately rewarding. The more this attitude was perpetrated, the more the game became complex with each new patch,
Right.
each new expansion, to the point where the regular player just couldn't keep up anymore. But WoW wasn't always like this, and it definitely wasn't a game you would say to be competitive and complex
Right, lols.
when it became the largest game in the world. WoW was always at its best when it felt that anyone can play it
Yeah.
without crutches in the
Yeah,
form of
like the classic community is a great example of why the game doesn't have to be hard to be enjoyable. Anybody who thinks classic WoW is hard needs to rethink their definition of what hard is. I don't know, because classic WoW is very easy. It's super casual. It's the most casual version of this game. Now, people add hardcore WoW on top of that. Now, I think there's like ultra mega veiny hardcore or something out there. They keep iterating on hardcore to make classic hard. But if you just play classic in its simplified version, classic is a very slow paced. You take your time. There's nothing very complicated about it. It's all very simple to watch, simple to do, and you just play through it. Ragnaros and all these fights, these are such easy fights compared to today's standards, and people still love that shit. They eat it up. There's an entire community waiting for Classic Plus out there. So to say that the game has to be difficult to be good, I mean, Classic's a great freaking example of no, why that's not true.
add-ons, guides, or that friend telling you your gear
Believe me, there are sweaties in every version of WoW. That's true. And there will continue to be sweaties. That's why this version of pruning and whatever's happening right now with classes is not the end of the world. Because I agree, even in classic WoW, there are the sweaties, the optimizers, the ultimate rotationists, the guys who know every nuance of the game, and they can outplay anybody and out-DPS anybody. And that'll continue to be a thing now, post add-ons and post everything else. It's just the base level of the game is easier. It's more approachable, because yes, this game does need new players. We can't have decrepit Grandpa Sam, 80 years old, still playing. I probably might be still playing. I don't mind it. Okay, that's great. But I can't be the only one, because there's got to be new people coming into the game to keep it alive.
is wrong, because if you swap from crit haste stats to crit verse stats, your damage would improve by 5%. What the fuck? For us, the straw that broke the camel's back was when we mythic raided and got to Silken Court in Narrow Bar, and to be able to fight this boss efficiently, not only did we require a Weekara pack that had so much information on the screen,
Where's the fucking game? Where's the game? You're just looking at UI elements. This is not pretty. This is not immersive. That's why I hate so many add-ons. I feel like it ruins the immersiveness of the game. What the hell are you looking at here? You're looking at your tune is like 1% of the screen. The rest of it is charts and graphs and shit. I mean, this is why Greg from accounting and maybe likes, wow, look at all these charts and graphs, having a good time.
Hardly tell what was going on, but also voice comms with our poor raid leader struggling to keep everyone in check, and worst of all, a spreadsheet consisting of over 15 pages that showed where everyone's positioning had to be at each of the 17 stages of the fight.
Christ.
On top of knowing how to play our class, researching video guides for the bosses, simming our characters for the best gear, using WoW Added to fill in all of the data so our officers know how to distribute loot, keep our add-ons and Weekaras updated with at least 2 other apps installed on our computers.
Yeah.
Regularly check logs to make sure we are using our cooldowns correctly. It got to the point where spending time hitting the boss was like a feature of our subscription and not the actual game.
True.
I understand better players do this all the time, and it's fine with them. They would have done this for expansions.
Some people talk about, J-Ball's mentioning, like, I can't continue to play the game without add-ons. You're right. You can't continue to play the current version of the game without add-ons. The thing is, they're not just removing add-ons. They're changing the current version of the game to work without add-ons. It's going to be less complicated, going to be less difficult, at least on the front end, and should be more accessible. So you won't need the add-ons. That's the thing. People are like, well, I'm not going to be able to play my class without add-ons anymore. Of course, that's true. Blizzard acknowledged that. They literally said it. Ian said it in a briefing with PC Mag. He said, we heard players saying, well, I can't track all of my abilities without add-ons. And he said, and I quote, they're not wrong, which is why we need to change their abilities. So these things are going to happen. The current game and the way it currently exists does require add-ons to play optimally. You're not going to be playing this version of the game without add-ons.
And have been doing it for years, but for us it was no longer a fun video game we could enjoy and progress when the progress became about spreadsheet analysis and aggregated data parsing against our own performance. What the fuck? There's no coincidence that every time we have a season where the dungeons get easier, loot is more accessible, and the gating for content, progression, and story is removed, more people play the game, have a better experience, and talk positively of it. The infamous BFA became a success in patch 8.3 with the crazy corruptions, the limiters of Azerite power removed, corruption vendors added, and the chains of character progression shattered. Speaking of, Shadowlands also instantly made people forget the Maw and Torghast farming when the Covenant restrictions have been dissolved, legendaries made incredibly accessible, and the catalyst for the tier sets finally added.
Imagine that.
And I can go on about Dragonfly Season 3, the Bloons, Turbo Boost events, and now Legion Remix. But you get the picture.
That's a skill issue, Sam. Well, that's a skill issue because, Sam, remember when we were raiding in Dragonflight, I had no add-ons or watch videos on how to raid, balls deep and raw. I mean, yeah, that's how I play it. I mean, you guys can watch me how I raid. I don't want a lot of add-ons. I don't want all this shit on my screen. I want to play the game. I want to see the game I'm playing. I don't want 15 air horns and the sound of somebody moaning in my ear to indicate that I've now been targeted by the boss. I just want the game to indicate that I've been targeted by the boss in the game. Please. Thank you. Is that too much to ask? I think that's the right way to play, and that's you play games for escapism. I want to escape, not into a fucking world of charts and graphs and add-ons. I want to escape into Grizzly Hills and listen to the music and RP my way into Lion's Pride Inn on Moonguard so I can have a good time at night. That's all. Is that too much? I don't think that's too much.
WoW has turned over the years into an elitist game with competitiveness as its driver, cosplaying as a casual game with, oh look how easy it is to collect herbs and create alts, lying to itself that it is easier and the people complaining just need to get good or play some other game. So now, when the money isn't coming into Blizzard because there are just so many Cash App transmogs they can put in their store before people don't care anymore, we are getting a simplified version of the game. I kid the developers. Don't let my unfair snarkiness distract you from the fact that we consistently get store mounts packaged with broken rogue specs, bugged events, and FPS issues that never seem to have a problem meeting their bi-yearly schedule release, from PTR cycles with no incentive for the player base to test them, with them being the replacement for a non-existing QA team. Saying all of this for people that may not believe we are not, in fact, Blizzard shills. At midnight, all classes have been pruned hard. This comes after the multi-year war on add-ons, finally culminating in the banning of weak auras and boss encounter add-ons, but also the one-button rotational assist as well. But the pendulum swung too hard the other way now. We understand people are seeing WoW as a second university degree they need to study for and compete with 19 other people just to get into a group. But now we have specs like Fire Mage that has seen its bars be completely nuked out of orbit and literally having a rotation as simple as vanilla World of Warcraft, a 20-year-old game from a bygone era.
That people still love to play. That's the truth. People still love it. Its simplicity doesn't make it bad. People freaking love classic WoW. And even if you're not a classic Andy, like I'm not, I don't want to play a version of the game that ends. I don't want to play a version of the game really that I already played. I was there for vanilla WoW. I started playing in 2005. I remember those days. Fondly, might I add. But the fact that it was simple didn't make it not fun. In fact, it was a lot of fun. And that's why this is a joke, obviously. I mean, what the hell's going on here? He's clicking one button 13 times. Okay, fine. It's a bit over simple, but that's not what's happening here. We're getting a simplification of rotations because right now rotations are overly complicated and require add-ons to be played correctly, and that shouldn't be the case.
With these new changes, the fire has been stoked and the community has revealed itself.
Right time.
Over the last couple of weeks, our content has been primarily summarized into spec rework videos, since that's what we like, talking about the changes you will see in the new expansion, something Marcel and I have been asking for since at least Season 2 of Dragonflight, when the new gearing system came out with flight stones and gilded crests. And we have seen the comments. The elitist player base are arguing for complexity. They don't give a rat's ass that a large community of players don't find guides, combat auras, and spreadsheets fun, and would prefer that WoW stays the same or more or less on the same path, since the high depth of class design and skill expression is why they love the game, together with the encounters being difficult, cutting edge, and Hall of Fame being a prestigious achievement they work their butts off for.
Yeah. Yeah.
Newsflash
Trigger
for the
warning.
extremists on this side: you're not a good player if all you are doing is following a weak RI yelling in your face to move left, to dispel, to pop a defensive, to equip the right items simmed properly by a website. If you want a high-skilled video game to test your game...
I've said it before. I feel like a lot of these weak aura players who, like, you know, all they do is pump up their numbers and claim that they're the greatest ever. They're playing Dance Dance Revolution and WoW. Like, they literally got the arrows coming down on the screen of the next ability they're supposed to click, and they're just clicking it. Are you even thinking? This is the problem with parsers. Like, why we die a lot on these end game boss fights is, like, people are just not doing the mechanics. They're just got 30. They can't even see the mechanics because they got 47 weak auras on their screen telling them what to click next and what to do next and how to parse next and what you know, and how to fart next. I mean, Jesus. If they simplify the game, it'll be better, because your actual skill will matter more. You won't be being told what to do. You'll have to think what to do. Imagine that, thinking. Oh my God.
Chops. I can name you easily 10 RTSs, fighting games, and shooters with actual difficulty and skill expression being their core identity. But those are ignored since they are actually hard games. On the other side, the casuals arguing for simple, don't give us squirrels left nut that games should pose a modicum of challenge for people. They don't care that WoW gets pruned, where they can play with no keybinds or personal challenge. Also, newsflash.
Another trigger
Pressing
warning.
the same 2 to 3 buttons with no difference in outcome is not a video game. One button rotation taking away any kind of reward for rotational choice has less skill expression than Candy Crush color matching that my grandma makes on her tablet, where she doesn't know how to turn the volume up on. If you want a chill video game that doesn't require you put in the time to grind player power through farming or practicing on a training dummy or rotational that you need to get better on, I can give you 100 other amazing games you can chill into with great story, music, vibes, and wonderful communities.
Also true. Yeah, also true. If they go the opposite direction, where one button rotation is the best way to play the game and you cannot physically out DPS single button rotation, then yeah, the game's gone too far in that direction, for sure. An overly simplified game to the point where, yeah, you're clicking one button and that is the best way to play the game is not a fun game to play. I think what they're doing is lowering the barrier to entry, not necessarily lowering the ceiling to elitism or playing this game the best way possible, if that makes sense. A lower floor without a lower ceiling. There's just more room for more people to be included. It's a bigger room to be in. That's all.
But they are
That's what it should be.
I get it. In our streams and in our comments, we have consistently seen the two sides of the community fighting and have pushed us to make this video. The lack of flexibility, tolerance, and understanding between the two sides is bordering on the hilarious. And
I say I don't need add-ons. Also downloads DPM to tell him when to taunt, because I need to be told when to taunt, because the game is not intuitively doing it itself. That's the problem. Again, it goes back to, I agree. If you think about quitting because you can't play the current game without add-ons, you're not wrong, but you're not going to be playing the current game without add-ons. You're going to be playing a different version of the game that does a better job of telling you what to do or indicating to you what you should be doing without the requirement of add-ons. And Blizzard already said they're replacing DBM and things like that with in-game signals that should tell you when to taunt. Okay, that's that. great that I don't need DPM and I don't want to download DPM.
At times, incredibly
Or you
annoying.
suck, yeah,
This
or
is
that.
important because more than ever before, the devs are actually listening, and if you thought your game isn't designed or hasn't been designed, now is the time to talk. But the mentality we have seen of, I don't care how you enjoy the game so long
Skill
as
issue.
I
That's
get
right,
to
Hunter.
enjoy it the
Thank you,
way
Bernie.
I want to, has been rather tedious to try to mediate. Here is a thought in what we consider a more balanced approach. Simple makes the game approachable for having a loose barrier of entry.
Yes.
More people means a bigger MMO, a larger game, and all of your friends and family able to play your favorite game. But
True.
also, games cannot have two buttons and all else be damned. It's an MMO that has built characters for 20
Very
years,
true.
and a little depth to them should be part of the course in an RPG. Specs cannot play themselves too much.
Yeah, the barrier to entry can't be so tight that you can't penetrate it, but it also shouldn't be so loose that you feel nothing when you're in it. I'm talking about WoW, okay?
Make them simple, sure, but don't
Makes
add
sense.
interactions with no gameplay changes. For what it's worth, the devs have stated that their goal is for the difficulty to not change much at the higher end, with the elimination of add-ons and track complex procs and combat events, but also the elimination of the need for these events to be tracked. The game can focus on designing an encounter and a world that has mechanics still requiring you to have a reaction, a strategy, a plan that is there based off of research and experience you have from trying to improve. It's good to give feedback for the changes we are seeing, but if we gatekeep our very own idealized version of WoW, all we are doing is creating unfairness for the other side of the player base and largely losing the plot and the criticism we are here to offer.
Yes, what they're Peo says what they're doing is making the game significantly less accessible for people with disabilities who play the game. Blizzard acknowledged that. They know that, and they need to get that shit in the game for sure. Now, by the way, somebody with disabilities who has text read to them in the game or something, all the shit outside of combat will still be a thing. Just an FYI, that'll still be a thing. It's just the in-combat stuff that is now being limited. And Blizzard has acknowledged that people with disabilities and stuff, they are working on getting that stuff in so add-ons aren't required for them to play as well. It's a work in progress. Sam, have you seen Blizzard's DBM version? I know, it's not done. It's not done. Look, I'm not saying this process is going to be, oh, so smooth, buttery smooth transition. It's not. It's going to take a lot of feedback, a lot of iteration. But I feel like while it might not be the best month of WoW ever when these things start to happen, it's going to be better in the long term for WoW when these things happen.
The pruning is
I think eventually
necessary.
they'll
WoW
get
has
there.
become over-designed, but classes and combat has to be able to reward player choices and not have 20-year-old rotations on specs that press Fireball or Shadow Bolt for 60 to 80%.
Vanilla had add-ons. Yeah, of course it did. And again, outside of combat, you want to have some UI items that makes your UI look like a dildo. That's fine. You can still do that. The combat shit, though, in vanilla, if you needed add-ons to do Ragnaros, you got problems. It's a fucking skill issue. I'm not going to lie. If you need add-ons to do the Ragnaros fight, you're fucking something up. Now, needing add-ons to do the Dreadlords fight in Shadowlands and Sanctum of Domination, no, that's not a skill issue. You actually did probably need add-ons to communicate properly and do the fight correctly. There's a big difference between having add-ons for the sake of having them or having add-ons because the fight was designed with the requirement for add-ons in place. Very different.
Of their rotation and call that engaging gameplay. Most of this is problematic because it's not coming as a choice that players can make, but rather the de facto default that we just have to expect. It wasn't great when it was on the other side with tooltips breaking out of your screen, and it won't be fun when it doesn't matter what the tooltip is because you only have 3 buttons and whatever the order you press them in might end up not mattering much.
Sure.
There are actually a few great examples of specs that actually nail the balance between approachability and skill expression, at least in our humble opinion. Enhancement and Elemental Shamans are such specs. Affliction Warlock and Frost Mage are others, and we have videos for the former ones with coverage on the latter ones coming soon.
Nice, nice. Yeah, they will destroy the game and then revert it. I don't think so. I don't think so. I think they're going guns guns a-blazing. They're going to go through with this. Is it going to be painful? Yeah, there's going to be some things that are painful about it. I don't doubt it. It's not going to be perfect out of the box. But like I said, I think in the long term, this is better. It's better for the game and better for gameplay. It lowers the barrier to entry for new players, and you do need new players to create a healthy version of this game for sure. And on the high end, you'll still be able to max out your rotation perfectly without the use of add-ons, just through player skill alone. So I see things heading in the right direction. I think the pruning, it's going to take some balancing. The good thing is Blizzard's listening to feedback better than they ever have. This is the best version of Blizzard iterating on feedback that we've ever seen. They've been very responsive. Every single alpha now, we've had pages and pages of class changes based on feedback, and that'll continue to happen. So if you want these changes, you're worried about something specific to your class, post it on the forums. And I'm sure you're going to get, if enough people feel the same way, you're going to get a change. So that's great. Overall, nice video from Marcelian.